In the midst of life's constant chaos and the never-ending chase for success, there comes a time when we are gently nudged to pause, reflect, and seek a deeper truth that lies beneath the surface of our everyday experiences. This week, I made a conscious decision to embrace such a pause, not to escape life, but to engage more deeply with it, by allowing the timeless teachings of the Buddha to guide me through 7 ordinary days with extraordinary awareness. What began as a simple intention turned into a deeply transformative journey that reshaped not only my perspective, but the very core of my motivation. Buddha's teachings have long been revered as a spiritual compass, pointing the way toward a life of peace, clarity, and genuine fulfillment. His words, echoing across centuries, offer not only philosophical insight, but a practical blueprint for everyday living. These teachings are not confined to monasteries or mountaintops. They are meant for every individual navigating the stresses of modern life. As I immerse myself in these teachings, I began to notice how much of our suffering stems not from external events, but from the mind's refusal to accept the present moment. We are so often entangled in regret over the past or anxiety about the future that we overlook the rich aliveness of now. Motivation, I realized, is not something we can force or fabricate. It's something that blossoms naturally when we are in harmony with ourselves and our purpose. Yet, how often do we try to push ourselves through sheer willpower, only to end up burnt out and discouraged? Buddha's teachings, especially on mindfulness and self-compassion, help me see that motivation is not about doing more, but about being more aware, more kind, more present. When we create space within ourselves for stillness and reflection, we allow the seeds of inner strength and clarity to grow. These seeds do not sprout through pressure, but through presence. Throughout the week, I began each day with a simple ritual inspired by the Dhammapada, a few moments of silence, a conscious breath, and a thought of kindness either toward myself or others. It wasn't always easy. There were mornings when my mind was restless, burdened with to-do lists and lingering doubts. But instead of judging myself for being distracted, I practiced what Buddha gently urges us to do: observe without clinging, return without blame. This small act of awareness set the tone for the day, reminding me that my thoughts are not enemies to be battled, but clouds passing through the vast sky of my consciousness. As the days unfolded, I paid closer attention to the nature of my thoughts. I noticed how quickly my mind could spiral into worry, especially when facing tasks I deemed difficult or tedious. In those moments, I recalled Buddha's teaching that what we think, we become. I asked myself, what am I becoming with these thoughts? Am I becoming anxious, fearful, disconnected? Or can I choose thoughts that lead me toward peace, courage, and compassion? By becoming more aware of my mental patterns, I was able to interrupt the cycle of negativity and bring myself back to center. This simple yet profound shift had an enormous impact on my motivation. No longer was I acting out of fear or pressure. I was moving from a place of purpose and peace. One of the teachings that deeply touched me was the concept of dukkha, or suffering, and its causes. According to the Four Noble Truths, suffering is an inevitable part of life, but it arises primarily from our attachments, our clinging to people, outcomes, identities, and expectations. During this week, I observed how often I clung to perfection, to control, and to the approval of others. Each time things didn't go as planned, I felt a twinge of frustration. But instead of reacting blindly, I began to practice letting go. I reminded myself that change is the only constant, and that true peace comes not from controlling life, but from flowing with it. With each small release of control, I felt lighter. My energy, once scattered in resistance, was now free to be channeled into meaningful action. Another powerful aspect of Buddha's teachings that enriched my journey was the emphasis on compassion. So often, we reserve our compassion for others while being harsh toward ourselves. But true compassion, as the Buddha taught, must begin within. I started to notice the inner dialogue I maintained with myself. When I made mistakes or fell short of my goals, was I patient and understanding, or was I critical and unkind? The answer was clear, and it became a turning point. I began to treat myself as I would a dear friend, with forgiveness, encouragement, and grace. This inner compassion didn't make me lazy. It made me stronger. When we are kind to ourselves, we no longer waste energy battling our inner critic. We direct that energy toward growth and joy. During one particularly challenging day, I found myself overwhelmed by a long list of responsibilities and a looming sense of inadequacy. My motivation dipped, and the temptation to procrastinate crept in. Instead of pushing through mechanically, I chose to pause and meditate. I focused on my breath, slowly inhaling and exhaling, bringing my awareness back to the present. As the noise in my mind quieted, a deeper wisdom surfaced. I don't have to do everything at once. I only need to take the next kind step. This insight, simple yet profound, reminded me that motivation is not a giant leap. It is a gentle, consistent movement forward, one mindful step at a time. Impermanence, another core teaching of the Buddha, also became a daily reminder. Everything is in flux: emotions, thoughts, situations. This truth, while unsettling at first, became incredibly liberating. When I felt unmotivated or stuck, I reminded myself, this too shall pass. And it did. When joy came, I cherished it without clinging. When sorrow visited, I welcomed it as a passing guest. This awareness of impermanence helped me remain balanced and grounded. It taught me that no state, good or bad, is permanent. This gave me the courage to keep going, even on difficult days, knowing that each moment is a new beginning. The practice of mindful action became a cornerstone of my week. Whether I was eating a meal, having a conversation, or working on a project, I made an effort to be fully present. This was not always easy, but it was incredibly rewarding. By giving my full attention to whatever I was doing, I discovered a quiet joy that had nothing to do with external results. Even mundane tasks like washing dishes or folding clothes became opportunities for meditation. This shift in perspective turned everyday routines into sacred rituals. I no longer needed grand achievements to feel motivated. The simple act of being present was enough. As the week came to a close, I reflected on the subtle yet profound changes that had taken place within me. My external circumstances had not changed dramatically, but my inner world had undergone a quiet revolution. I felt more centered, more peaceful, and more connected to myself and others. My motivation was no longer driven by fear, guilt, or comparison. It arose naturally from a sense of purpose, clarity, and compassion. I realized that the greatest source of motivation is not outside of us, but within. When we align with our deeper truth, we become unstoppable, not because we are perfect, but because we are present. This journey also deepened my understanding of interconnectedness, a key Buddhist insight. We are not isolated individuals striving alone. We are part of a vast web of life, and our actions, thoughts, and intentions ripple outward in ways we cannot always see. When we cultivate inner peace, we contribute to outer peace. When we act with compassion, we uplift not only ourselves but those around us. This understanding infused my actions with a deeper sense of responsibility and joy. I no longer felt alone in my struggles. I felt part of a greater whole, united by our shared humanity and collective longing for meaning and love. Looking back, I see this week as a precious gift, a time of awakening, not to some mystical state, but to the beauty and wisdom that already exists within everyday life. Buddha's teachings did not give me something new. They helped me remember what I had forgotten. That peace is found in the present. That compassion begins with oneself. That impermanence is not to be feared but embraced. That true motivation arises when we live with intention and awareness. Though the week has ended, the journey has just begun. I carry these teachings with me, not as a rigid set of rules, but as a living, breathing guide. Every breath is a chance to return to presence. Every moment is an opportunity to choose kindness. Every challenge is a doorway to deeper wisdom. And every day, no matter how ordinary, is a chance to begin again. If you, too, are feeling disconnected, overwhelmed, or unmotivated, I invite you to take a similar journey. Begin with a single breath. Notice your thoughts without judgment. Offer yourself a moment of compassion, and know that within you lies the strength, clarity, and courage to walk the path of peace. Buddha's teachings are not relics of the past. They are timeless lights that illuminate the way forward, one mindful step at a time.